Update 24 is just around the corner, at least that's what Inja said. But with every update, there are things that should be improved. So in this video, I'm going to be covering what I personally strongly believe the community deserves from this upcoming update. Also, we recently hit 1,000 subs, so thank you. I'm going to be hosting a giveaway for a $20 Robux gift card at 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe to enter, and then also comment your Discord username, and actually I made a Discord for 1,000 subs, so the link is in the description. But anyway, on with the video. Most NPCs playing Blox Fruits are just waiting for that brain rot dragon rework, but I have a few things that I would personally really enjoy, and I think they would improve the game overall for the general player base. Number 1, a bounty system rework. If we're really comparing Blox Fruits to what it's based on, One Piece, then the bounty system is pretty outdated, with a maximum of 30 million and only getting around 10 to 15,000 bounty per kill. Compared to the billions of bounty in One Piece, it's pretty underwhelming. However, I don't think they should completely change how much bounty you get from each kill either, because then it will make players with high bounties annoyed that they had to spend a longer time earning it than the newer bounty hunters. Let's quickly go over the pros and cons of a new bounty system. The first pro is that it would increase competition in crews. Taking a look at the current leaderboard for crews, every crew essentially has the same bounty, and there's no real number 1 besides the admin crews. Seriously, I hate the admin crews. If you're going to add more bounty to yourself than any normal player can get, don't make it count for the leaderboards. And why do I think more competition is good? Well, it sets a sense of determination to beat other players and creates dedication to the game. It also will open doors to content creators to make more videos on not only bounty hunting to new levels, but also things like challenging people of certain bounty levels, comparing the skills of people with different bounties, and more. The second pro is that players with maximum bounty right now would have another reason to continue playing. This means that Blox Fruits will have a more active player base than they already have, and I don't know, it's just cool, okay? People can set new goals and stuff and race to see who comes out on top of the leaderboards, since right now, the leaderboards are pretty irrelevant, unlike many other games. But there are also problems that arise with this. So for the first con, we have increased times to gain significant amounts of bounty. It already takes weeks, if not months, to get 30 million bounty. So increasing the limit would make it even harder to get there, but I actually think this could be good, and in fact, they should get rid of the bounty limit completely. It would make crews so much more competitive, and players at the top would be known unanimously throughout the game. But I understand the perspective of players with lower bounties. It would probably kind of suck if you know that you can never catch up to the top, but personally, this doesn't matter to me because no other games that I can think of have a leaderboard and a limit to how high you can get on the leaderboard. It really just doesn't make sense to me. And for the second con, I'm gonna say that if they were to make you gain more bounty per kill, then that would be a pretty bad choice. Not only would players who've already spent hours grinding kills to get higher bounties be mad because they did all that work for nothing compared to what people after the change will be doing, but it would also generally inflate everyone's bounties, making the current ones essentially irrelevant. So how can Blox Fruits implement this without the cons? Well, the solution I thought of is to remove the bounty limit completely, because this will allow leaderboards to work, as they should increase competition, which provides a motive to keep pushing. Add some kind of rewards for more milestones, like 15 million bounty or something. It could be something like a title, or another ability like summoning CBs for 10 million, or maybe even a hockey color. Keep the amount people gain per kill the same, remove the damn admin crew impossible bounties, and hear me out, get rid of bounty boosts. Bounty boosts just make people who should already be better with their experience have an even greater advantage over those with lower bounties. It honestly shouldn't even be in the game and makes no sense in the first place. By doing all these things, Blox Fruits will have increased competition, leading to a more active player base and a revival of the bounty/honor leaderboards and the crew leaderboards, an increase in higher bounty crews and players, a more equal PvP environment without added boosts, and a reason for people to keep playing. For number 2, we need bigger boats. I know that they already improved all the boats and stuff, but they really just aren't as amazing as I think they could be. Boats should be a method of escape and gathering with allies or with enemies to have intense fights. The boats in Blox Fruits are slow and easy to catch up to, easily destroyable, and people who aren't fishermen basically never fight over water. Also, the cannons, like, who even uses the cannons? They're a completely irrelevant part of the boats. Nobody uses them, even in the first sea. Having bigger boats would make Blox Fruits feel more piratey, if that makes sense. Instead of only PvPing mainly at Turtle, Castle, and Cafe, people could actually have good fights and maybe even crew fights at the sea on boats large enough to do so. But of course, there are some problems. With the current state of Blox Fruits PvP, there's simply too much mobility, and fights are incredibly fast-paced and large scale. So when people are PvPing, they're likely going to take up an entire island's worth of space, especially with runners. Having boats the size of islands would definitely not be ideal, and it would mess with the spacing between islands, especially between seas, since islands in the third sea are so much further from each other than in the first sea, and it would also feel incredibly chunky and overall just stupid. So how would I implement this feature in Blox Fruits? Well, I'm not exactly sure what I would do about the island-sized boats, because the root problem here is that players can move too much and too quickly, which makes space irrelevant, and most fights end up in the air anyway. So although I wish boats could get to the point where players could have full fights on them, I don't really think it's possible. But the Blox Fruits dev team could probably think of something better than just me. But I think making boats faster, like actually being able to outrun players, would help make them more significant. I also think if they somehow do make boats larger, then making the cannons make part of the boats it hits like fall apart would be a great addition, kind of like how the structures in Jujutsu Shenanigans were. Also, make the cannons aimable, closer to how the Beast Hunter's harpoon is, but maybe a little faster. Another thing I would change is how long it takes to spawn a boat in the first place. A key reason on why boats aren't good for running away right now is not only that they simply aren't fast enough to do so, but it also takes a long time to purchase one, get in, and start driving away. To combat this, I think there should be a system change, where instead of having to manually purchase a boat each time by talking to the boat dealer NPCs, players can talk to them and set a boat they want to spawn in every time they get close to the dock. This would skip the purchasing process and would make it a lot faster for players to spawn in a boat and get going. For number 3, an energy system change. Part of the reason why Blox PvP is so fast-paced and all over the place is that energy has become an irrelevant stat. Unless you're trying to run a hybrid build or you're using Phoenix, you will likely never run out of energy, ever. But we can't just make you gain less energy per stat point or increase the energy requirement for moves, because then players in the first and second seas will be at a much greater disadvantage. Another thing is that some fruits just suck because of energy, and by some fruits, I mean control. You wanna know why control sucks in Blox fruits? Because it's inaccurate! If it was accurate to One Piece, it would actually be a viable fruit, and by accurate, I mean that the room should be much larger, like large enough to cover most of an island in the third sea, depending on how long the user holds the Z move for. But honestly, the Z move should just be a click move, and they should add another move to control, since levitate is almost useless, and control doesn't have many attack moves. And then they make control do much more damage and make cooldowns longer, but increase the amount of energy it takes significantly. This would be accurate to how Law says that the fruit is extremely strong, but takes a lot of energy to use. So how can we change the energy system in Blox fruits to make it relevant at higher levels so people have to preserve it in some way, but still make the game accessible to lower level players who might not have max stat points in melee? My proposed solution is to make moves take more energy based on the sea you're in. This way, players in the first sea who are first sea level would be basically unaffected, since energy is pretty relevant in the first sea already. But players in the second sea and even third seas would also now have to keep in mind their energy when in fights, because if someone runs out of energy in a fight, they should lose. This would add a new level to PvP, making another way to win, outlasting your opponent, which is exactly how it should be. With this added, energy will no longer be a completely insignificant stat at higher levels. Accessories that boost max energy would actually mean something, and players might decide to go visit lower seas to PvP without the energy changes, which would finally provide a reason to go between seas. For number 4, I think Blox fruits needs to make spawn physical fruits more significant. Right now, nobody without a fruit notifier is ever going to find a fruit on the ground, and if they do, it's either really trash or they won't find another for like 2 years. The only fruits I've ever found naturally spawned were 2 bomb fruits when bomb was the lowest fruit in the game, and 1 phoenix like 2 years ago. At this point, I'm legitimately unsure if fruits even spawn in the third sea or not. Without the fruit notifier, which is a crazy 2,700 robux, finding fruits around the map is basically impossible and does not mean anything to most of the player base. But if some changes are made to make fruits easier to find on the ground, then the fruit notifier would be less useful, and therefore people who've already bought it would be mad and blah blah blah, nobody wins. So if we want a solution that would actually solve this issue, then we need to make it so that the fruit notifier now grants some kind of additional perk with tracking fruits. And on a side note, the fruit notifier should have gone like a green dot or something where the fruit is, maybe a toggleable arrow to the fruit. Just the distance is good, but for 2,700 robux, and if they're going to find it eventually, then why not make it a little easier? Anyway, my proposed solution to this is making a fruit spawn not once every hour for 20 minutes, but making their despawn time a full hour, so that there will always be at least 1 fruit spawned if the server is over an hour old, and then making it so that there are 2 fruits spawned every hour. This will also make the fruit notifier more valuable because it will have a dot on both the fruits instead of the distance to just 1, making it easier to get more fruits for those who have it, but also 6 times more likely for those without the fruit notifier to find one. I also think the rates of it being a good fruit could be played with a bit, but yeah, I can see some arguments on why this might not be a good change, because it's highly unlikely to find one even if there's 2 around the map, and it would mainly benefit those with the fruit notifier since they would definitely find it before others without it. But this is the most my brain is capable of, so shut up, this is peak idea forming. Finally, for number 5, Blox fruits needs to add their YouTube role to my account. Please get me to 10,000 subscribers, I'm begging you, I need this for clout, please get me to 10,000. That's the top things Blox fruits needs to add, and if you're curious about other things, subscribe for more content and go watch the video on screen. I promise it won't disappoint.